economic crisis that was brought on by a political crisis, and now we're just generally in crisis.
So Sri Lanka, though it has followed the electoral democratic process and everyone who is in parliament and the president has been elected, has also the features of a family-run state and sort of authoritarian structures.
අපේ රටේ ජනතාවට ගෑස් නැහැ, තෙල් නැහැ, ආහාර නැහැ, සල්ලි දීපත් බඩු මුට්ටු ගන්න නැහැ.
People are now starving.
Sri Lanka is drowning in one of the world's biggest crises. The country has run short of basic necessities like food, fuel and medicine. Inflation is at its peak. People in Sri Lanka are starving. Most Sri Lankans blame the government for this. The restless and disappointed citizens have been protesting for weeks. Following the protests, the government took a huge decision, mass resignation. On 3rd April, 26 cabinet ministers resigned. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa then approached the opposition parties with a proposal to form a unity party which got rejected. Instead, a new cabinet of 17 members was formed. On the other side, the angry citizens demanded President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to quit. In the next big step that came from the government, a state of emergency was declared. Who are Rajapaksas and why are they blamed for the crisis in the country? Mahinda Rajapaksa served 2 terms as president. In 2015, the new president was elected from the opposing party. 4 years later, in the next election, Mahinda's younger brother, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, was elected as the new president. Gotabaya made Mahinda the prime minister and handed his relatives a number of government jobs. To win the presidential elections, Gotabaya had made promises to cut down taxes, which, when fulfilled, led to a cut down of total 25% of the government revenue. In addition, they rushed to restore the family's brand of populist authoritarianism and spent huge sums on infrastructure projects. Another action that Gotabaya took was to force farmers to go completely organic. The government banned the use and import of chemical fertilizers. This resulted in less production, and Sri Lanka had to import rice for the first time in its history, which also resulted in price escalation. For a long time, the country spent more than what it earned and kept spending its reserves until it came down to zero. And when the debts of the country went unmanageable, in April, the government admitted that it cannot make the debt payment anymore. Even though it was quite evident that the country was about to hit a crisis, the government turned deaf ears and did nothing to better the situation. On May 12, 2022, Gotabaya appointed opposition leader Ranil Wickremesinghe as the new Prime Minister, who is now working his way to tackle the nation's worst economic crisis by forming a unity government. But the oppositions are not willing to join hands as they want what the protesters want: Gotabaya to quit. The country desperately needs cash. Many countries like India and China have stepped up to help Sri Lanka. But the main hope is to secure a big bailout from the International Monetary Fund. For the talks to progress, Sri Lanka has to assure a stable government that will be able to deliver on the undertakings given to the International Monetary Fund. Whereas on the political front, with the protests and other issues, Sri Lanka doesn't seem to become stable anytime sooner.